exactly 2:13 a.m.? The voice inside Daniel's bedroom wall whispered his name for the first time. Not loudly, not aggressively, just a soft, broken whisper. Daniel. At first, he thought he was dreaming. But 3 nights later, the voice came back, and this time, it knew something nobody else did. Daniel Harper lived alone in a small apartment building on the edge of Liverpool. The place was old, damp, and strangely quiet at night. Most tenants stayed for only a few months before leaving. Nobody really talked to each other there. But Daniel didn't care. After losing his job and going through a painful breakup, he just wanted somewhere cheap to stay while he figured his life out. The apartment itself looked normal enough. Cracked paint, weak heating, water stains spreading across the ceiling. But there was one thing Daniel noticed on his very first night. Every single night. At exactly 2:13 a.m., a faint tapping sound came from the wall beside his bed. 3 taps. Pause. Then 3 more. At first, he ignored it. Old buildings make noises all the time. But after 2 weeks, the tapping became impossible to ignore because it started sounding intentional, like someone trying to communicate. One night, unable to sleep, Daniel knocked back against the wall. The tapping stopped immediately, and for a few seconds, everything became completely silent. Then he heard breathing, very slow breathing, right inside the wall. Daniel jumped out of bed and turned on the lamp, staring at the cracked wallpaper beside him. The breathing stopped instantly. He pressed his ear against the wall. Nothing, no sound, no movement. The next morning, he asked the landlord about it. The old man froze for a second before forcing a smile. "These walls are thin," he said. "You're probably hearing pipes." But Daniel noticed something strange. The landlord suddenly seemed nervous, and before leaving, he quietly added, "Whatever you hear at night, don't answer it." That sentence stayed in Daniel's mind all day. Whatever you hear at night, don't answer it. But why would he say that? The following night, Daniel stayed awake with his phone recording beside him. 2:12 a.m. Nothing. 2:13. Tap, tap, tap. Daniel's breathing slowed. Then came the whisper. "Daniel?" His blood turned cold. The voice sounded weak, almost painful, like someone trapped somewhere, air far away. But what happened next was worse. The voice whispered again, "I know what you did." Daniel instantly froze. Because 3 years earlier, Daniel had been involved in a hit-and-run accident. Nobody knew. He never told anyone. The police never found him. And yet somehow, the voice inside the wall did. Daniel grabbed his phone and replayed the recording. The tapping was there, but the voice wasn't. Only silence. Over the next few days, things became stranger. Objects in his apartment started moving slightly out of place. Kitchen cabinets left open. Wet footprints appearing near the bathroom. And every morning, the wallpaper beside his bed looked more damaged than before. Like something underneath was slowly pushing against it. Daniel stopped sleeping properly. Dark circles formed under his eyes. He became paranoid. Every sound inside the apartment made his heart race. But the strangest part wasn't the voice. It was the fact that it only spoke about things Daniel wanted to forget. Private memories, hidden fears, things nobody should know. One night the voice whispered, "She never loved you." Another night, "You left your mother alone in the house." Spittle. Then finally, "You deserve to suffer." Daniel began drinking heavily, just to fall asleep. But sleep only made things worse, because the dreams started. In every dream, he stood inside a narrow hallway covered in black mold. At the end of the hallway was a pale woman facing the wall, not moving, not speaking, just standing there. And every time Daniel got closer, she whispered, "Let me out." Then he would wake up at exactly 2:13 a.m. Always. One evening, Daniel decided to investigate the apartment building's history. At the local library, he found old newspaper archives connected to the property. And that's when he discovered something disturbing. In 1998, a woman named Eleanor Voss disappeared inside the building. Neighbors reported hearing screaming through the walls for several nights before she vanished. Police searched the apartments but found nothing. No body. No signs of forced entry. The case was never solved, but one detail caught Daniel's attention. Eleanor lived in apartment 14, the exact apartment Daniel now lived in. Suddenly, everything started making sense. The voice, the tapping, the breathing. But one question terrified him most. If Eleanor disappeared inside the apartment, then where was her body? That night, Daniel returned home feeling sick. As he unlocked the door, he noticed something strange. The apartment smelled damp, stronger than usual, almost rotten. Then he saw it. The wallpaper beside his bed had peeled open by itself, and underneath, someone had scratched words directly into the wall. "Find me." Daniel stumbled backward in horror. The scratching looked fresh, as if it had appeared minutes earlier. His hands shook violently as he touched the wall. Then suddenly tap, 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 directly behind the plaster. Daniel nearly screamed. The voice returned immediately after. "She's still here." For the first time, Daniel realized the voice wasn't trying to scare him. It was trying to tell him something. He grabbed a hammer from the kitchen and smashed part of the wall open. Dust exploded across the room. Behind the plaster was darkness and a terrible smell. Daniel used his phone flashlight to look inside. At first, he saw nothing. Then he noticed human fingers. Pale fingers. Hidden behind the wall. Daniel collapsed backward in panic. The police arrived 30 minutes. Officers tore down part of the wall and made a horrifying discovery. Human remains. Female. The body had been hidden inside the apartment wall for nearly 30 years. News spread quickly across Liverpool. The body was later identified as Eleanor Voss. The entire building became surrounded by police and investigators. But something about the case didn't make sense. Forensic reports showed Eleanor died from blunt force trauma, meaning someone murdered her and hid the body inside the wall. But who and how had nobody discovered it for decades? That question haunted Daniel, but another detail disturbed him even more. The coroner estimated Eleanor had died around 2:13 a.m. After the discovery, the voices stopped completely. No tapping, no whispers, nothing. For the first time in months, Daniel slept peacefully. He thought it was finally over. Until 1 week later, Daniel received a phone call from the police. They had identified the building's previous owner as the prime suspect in Eleanor's murder, an older man named Victor Hale. But there was one problem. Victor Hale died 10 years earlier. Daniel felt relieved at first. Case closed. Mystery so. But later that night, while packing his things to move out, he found something hidden beneath the floorboards under his bed. An old cassette tape covered in dust, labeled only with a date. October 14th, 1998, the night Eleanor disappeared. Daniel found an old tape player in the Landlord storage room downstairs. Trembling, he pressed play. At first, there was only static, then a woman's voice, crying, begging, "Please, let me go." Daniel's chest tightened. Then another voice entered the recording. A man. Calm. Cold. "You shouldn't have listened through the walls." Daniel froze. Because he recognized the voice instantly. It belonged to his landlord. The same landlord who warned him not to answer the voice at night. Then the recording became worse. A loud bang, screaming, and finally, scratching sounds, like someone desperately clawing against wood from the inside. Daniel immediately ran upstairs to confront him, but apartment 1 was empty. The landlord was gone, furniture gone, lights off, no sign he had ever lived there. Then Daniel noticed something sitting alone on the kitchen table, a small handwritten note. It read, "She talks too much." Suddenly, tap, tap, tap. Daniel's blood froze. The sound was coming from inside the wall again. Slowly, he turned toward the sound. This time, the tapping came from a different wall, near the hallway. Then he heard it, breathing, right behind the plaster. But Eleanor's body had already been removed. So who was inside the wall now? The whisper returned moments later. Weak, terrified. "Help me!" Daniel stepped backward, unable to breathe. Because this voice wasn't Eleanor. It belonged to a child. Police searched the building. Again the next morning. What they found beneath the hallway walls shocked everyone. More human remains. 3 of them, including a child estimated to be around 9 years old. The media called it the Wall House murders. Investigators later uncovered evidence connecting the landlord to multiple disappearances dating back over 20 years. But Victor Hale, the original suspect, had died long ago, which meant someone else continued the killings after him. Someone who understood the building, someone still alive. Daniel disappeared 2 days later. His apartment was found empty, phone left behind, front door unlocked. No signs of struggle. But neighbors reported hearing strange noises from apartment 14 the night before he vanished. 3 taps, pause, 3 more. Police never found Daniel Harper. And sometimes, late at night, the new tenants still report hearing whispers inside the walls, always at exactly 2:13 a.m., calling their names.